Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 1237 of the Locked on Hawks podcast. I am your host, Brad Rowland, coming to you on a Tuesday into Wednesday. And thank you for joining us as always on the podcast. Please subscribe to the show on your podcast platform of choice. Make us your first listen each and every day. And if you missed it, this is actually part 2 of 2. So I recommend strongly going back to part 1. It's myself and Tyler Jones. If you do not listen to part 1, I definitely think that's better to listen to that first. It's sort of in order. It's one conversation, sort of free flow between myself and Tyler. So this is part 2. If you're already arriving for part 1, thank you for listening to part 1. Thank you for all of your support on the show. But that's sort of my PSA at the top of the episode. It's part 2 with myself and Tyler. After the intro, you'll hear that conversation continue. And at the end of the podcast, sort of a sign off from me. But thank you for subscribing as always. And here we go.
You are Locked On Hawks, your daily Atlanta Hawks podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
You know, you talked about Hunter being a question mark. I still think I'm a little higher on Hunter than you are, but unquestionably, he has to be better to have the same role or be a part of the future plans. You know, there's the whole extension conversation with Hunter. I know where you stand. I know you wouldn't pay every Hunter. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I know where you stand on that one. But like, I think barring a trade, he's gonna play a lot. I don't know if they're gonna trade him. I don't know what they're gonna do there, but from what I hear, I'd be surprised if he was traded unless it was for like a pretty big package for a guy who's really good. That is possible, but I think they're not trying to trade him. I don't think they're actively trying to do that.
They're not actively trying to trade him because he has no trade value. Like what?
Well, I think he has more value than you do. But
I mean, for certain, I could see the Jazz being interested in him.
Well, teams certainly are going to want to. I'm sure beyond the national broadcast stuff where there was this. I know you heard it in the playoffs. There were people talking about how Hunter is this great number 2 option on offense, all this stuff.
Ugh.
Like nationally, it was just like, all right, you guys haven't watched the team all year long. That's very obvious. But there is a perception of him.
Hold on. Can I talk about his performance against the Heat, where I thought he was actually terrible during that series, except for the game 5. Like game 5,
he was obviously awesome in game 5. So,
I mean, he was really good in game 5. Game 4 though,
I don't want you to rant too much on this because it's not, it's one of the things, but.
That was one of the worst. Sorry about this.
You good?
He had one of the worst off-ball performances I've ever seen. Like Jimmy Butler was just eating him alive on both ends. It was pretty nasty, and also a lot of his offensive production. If you watched, the Heat just weren't guarding him. They weren't taking him seriously. It was a lot of it was the Heat.
They weren't guarding anybody other than Bogey and Trey, basically.
Yeah, exactly. That's
true.
Herter
got a lot of looks too, and he made some and missed some, and he wasn't fantastic either. But you could definitely see who they respected, and it was mostly Trey and Bogey. And then when Bogey got mismatches, he went after them pretty aggressively, and that's what happened to Hunter. I mean, again, to his credit, in Game 5, Hunter really went hard and was aggressive and played well and made shots, and that was good.
But I mean, if you watch the lineups on the floor with the Miami Heat, there was a lot of PJ Tucker's the tallest guy on the floor, and it's that's nice against the Miami Heat. I mean, and they were a great defense all year, but we watched it all season with DeAndre Hunter and his finishing.
It wasn't great. In fact, if you go to the number, and again, we're going to move off Hunter, I promise, but I think on twos, he actually shot almost as bad as he did as a rookie. He shot 47% on twos this year. And for a guy his size, with his physicality and the ability to do what he is, physically able to do, that's a terrible number. Now he shot 38% from 3, which is actually really encouraging. If you want to find something that he was good at this year on offense, it was 3-point shooting, but he can't shoot 47% on twos. That's not, and that's not, it wasn't a small sample size either. That's the full season number. He did not do well inside the arc. And when you factor that in, that's not going to work because he's still taking twice as many twos as threes, and that's just going to kill your efficiency.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I'm I don't know.
I hear the exasperation. No, we can move on. It's fine. I just wanted to obviously he's a part of the process, and I know I sense in your voice in the last conversation, he's going to have a role. I think if he's here, he's going to have a prominent role. It will stun me if he's not starting at the 3, if he's on the roster. We'll see what happens from there. And if look, he was awesome in that stretch in his second season. We all know that. But at the same time, that was one 20-game stretch in 3 years. So, like, what are you supposed to do with that in terms of projection, in terms of what you do, like planning wise, if you're the GM, extension talks, etc. Like, he's literally had basically one stretch in his 3-year career where he was worth a huge investment, and that's over the course of 140 games, and it was 20 games or so. That's what we're talking about.
I don't know. I liked, man, those 20 games though. I don't even remember. Like, I felt like he was
really good
defensively too. Like, I just don't know what happened. Like,
well, and maybe just to be a little bit positive, I think he was banged up this year. To your point early on this podcast about the training staff, all that stuff, he said after the season was over, his back was bugging him a lot. Like, he had that hard fall with Kelly Oubre, and he was not really quite the same after that. Maybe that was part of it too. But this is also, and I'm not someone who throws around the injury prone thing, and I'm not saying that now, but dating back to Virginia, he's had a lot of health stuff. Like, you can't ignore the fact that he lost the season at Virginia, and he was banged up a little bit as a rookie. He missed almost all of his second season, and then he missed 30 games this year. And like, so in the last 5 seasons, he's basically had 1.5 full years. That's tough. Like, he's got to be healthier too. And this is something with Herter had that reputation, and he's been healthy now for a couple of years in a row. So it can be done. But all the factors in play. This is why I wouldn't look to extend him at anything less than a bargain basement level. But like, it's a big year. We all know that, but it's a huge year for him. And honestly, because of how much they invested in him in the first place, back to the trade and the fact that he's the only guy on the roster that fits his profile in terms of like big physical wing. If he misses or if they give up on him, it leaves a crater. Like, just realistically, as much as we talked about how good those Herter bogey lineups are, like, a lot of times you can't get away with that. If you're playing the Celtics, if you're playing somebody if you're playing Kevin Durant, you can't play those lineups. You have to have someone that can guard Kevin Durant or guard Jason Tatum, and those guys can't do that. So we'll see. But Hunter's supposed to be
but they can trade for that guy. This guy we're talking about, which is really, like, to me, I'm like, getting bigger DeLon Wright, which is, I think, what I'm thinking about just defensively.
Well, sure.
That guy's all over the league. Like, you can trade or sign that guy in free agency. Like, that's not all. But you have to actually be willing to be like, this guy's going to cut into DeAndre Hunter's minutes significantly. Like, DeAndre Hunter might play 20 minutes a game.
Well, and it's funny because of all the stuff that Nate said about not having development minutes, all that stuff. And then, if we're being honest, a lot of this season, Hunter didn't earn 30 minutes a game. It's just that he was playing that because he was the only guy around to play it. And again, I know I've been accused of like picking on Hunter. I'm really not trying to. He just wasn't very good this year. But it's a big season.
But here's the thing: like, why are we spending so much oxygen talking about DeAndre Hunter like this? Like,
well, you know why they traded 4 assets for him, and he was number 4 pick in the draft.
But that was like what, 3 years ago? Like,
it was, but he's also the starting 4. He's also the starting 3. Like, he started every game that he played in, other than the one when he came back from injury. Like, he was an entrenched starter. He's the only other guy other than Trey, Collins, and Capella that is like, he starts every time he plays. He's a starter. He's entrenched in that role. Whether you think he should be or not is another question. But like, they still view him as that guy. They still view him as a core inner core piece.
That's my point with like the GM of the team. Maybe we should give ourselves some more options at the big wing position, and more options is not Solomon Hill.
Well, they're going to have to. They're going to have to now, because you trade Cam, you get nothing back for him in terms of right now. Obviously, the pick is the pick, but we laughed about it. But like, how much better would they have been this year if they had Solomon Hill? A lot. It's crazy, I know, but like, that's how bad it was behind DeAndre Hunter. They had nobody else. It was TLC, who they signed as a non-guaranteed guy before training camp. He was on a non-guaranteed contract. It was him. It was Kevin Knox, who they got as the salary filler for Cam. And then it was Jalen, who they didn't want to play, obviously, at the 3. So, like, it was a crater after they traded Cam, and obviously well documented how bad they were with Cam on the floor, like -10 per 100 possessions with Cam on the floor for the season. So, like, to your point, I agree with you. They have to have other options. It can't just be those 3 wings and nothing else next year. That's my other than I've said a number of times now that they have to do, at least they don't have to, they will do something else in terms of like a trade involving somebody or doing something. But even a step beyond that, those can't be your only 3 wings next year. That's untenable. You cannot have that happen again.
Agreed. I mean, granted, they could always just play Dylan Wright some more minutes at the 3 or at the 2 or 3.
Well,
but
they have to sign him first. But yes, I think they probably will. I think they probably will. But I'm not. There's nothing guaranteed. Dylan Wright can leave anytime he wants. He's unrestricted.
I mean, and there's some guys. I mean, there's some guys I like in free agency. I know Kyle Anderson's not a 3, but like,
oh, well, Grizzlies crossover. Your guy, Kyle Anderson, slow mo.
Kyle Anderson's good. Can like.
I know you probably didn't watch this, but he was taking it to Jordan Poole on Monday night.
I bet he was, because he's a good basketball player. He's been a good basketball player for the majority of his career. But teams don't pay him that much money because he's unorthodox. You know, that's a guy you can look at. I mean, I feel like there was an opportunity to get Josh Hart. I mean, the Pelicans were dying to get rid of him for some reason. Like, Josh Hart's a good basketball player. Jason Tate, I'm pretty sure, is still available. OKC has like 15 wings that they don't play. We could snatch one of them. Does D'Anthony Melton, I'm pretty sure, doesn't play when everybody's healthy. Like, you know, there are options like this. There are options that aren't, trade. I think they should trade for Ben Simmons, but I think that's another part for another day. But like, there are more options than waiting for the Jaylen Brown or the Jason Tatum or the Brandon Ingram, you know, pie in the sky outcome to happen. Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, pie in the sky to happen, like, to address their wing problem. Like, there are good basketball players in this league that aren't superstars or don't project to be high scoring guys. They don't need scoring. Like, to me, this team in general needs a bit more toughness and physicality on the perimeter. And they just need more guys so that we're not in a situation where DeAndre Hunter is so important. Like, because quite frankly, Brad, he hasn't shown the ability to warrant this level of trust in him as a player. Like, it was a 20-game stretch. I don't know, man. Like, it's got to be more than 20 games from him. And like, he's going to get he's probably going to be back next year. He's going to get some more chances. But like, can we at least have some options on this team so that we're not just throwing out DeAndre Hunter to just not be good enough? Like, I mean, it was either NBA Math or some Twitter account had him as like the 301st ranked basketball player.
Yeah, that was the Andy Bailey average of all of the catch-all metrics. So that wasn't even just one. That was the average. Oh, yeah, that was bad.
It's even worse because, like, I mean, there's only 30 teams in the league, and really, most teams are 10 deep at rotation. Like, DeAndre Hunter's in the 300s. Like, that's for a team that has more aspirations than just being a playoff team. That's not good enough. Like, and he's playing plus starter minutes like he's one of your better two-way guys, and he's just not. And I hate that I'm on this podcast again talking about DeAndre Hunter, but like, to me, it just speaks to his organization. Like, they're not giving themselves any outs with him. Like, give yourself a chance with somebody else. Like, they had a chance to do it at trade deadline, they refused. So we'll see what they do in this offseason. I cannot think they're going to come into this season with just those, with Hunter, Bogey, Herter being the 3 guys, like
being the only guys. Yeah,
exactly. So
they can't do that.
We'll see what they do.
Today's show is brought to you by Athletic Greens. My schedule's pretty crazy this time of year and really all the time. I started taking Athletic Greens because I actually was trying to be healthier, have more energy, want to see what all the fuss was about with Athletic Greens. And now I've been on it for a while, and AG1 is what I'm taking for months. And I really love it. AG1 does not taste like a typical thing that's super healthy. I really look forward to actually taking AG1 each and every day. It's the first thing I have when I wake up, and just one delicious scoop of AG1 from Athletic Greens. You're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day on the absolute right note. And they have a special blend of ingredients that supports your nervous system, your immune system, your gut health, your energy, and gives you the ability to focus and recover. And AG1 costs less than $3 a day. You're investing big time in your health. It's cheaper than cold brew. That's something that I definitely can attest to. And AG1 also supports better sleep quality and recovery, as well as mental clarity and alertness. And right now, it is time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with the convenient daily nutrition that AG1 and Athletic Greens provides. It's one scoop of water in a cup every day, and that's really all you have to do. No need for a million different pills. It's something to look out for your health to make it even easier on you as well. Athletic Greens has a great offer for us, and that is they'll give you the free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is go to athleticgreens.com/NBA network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/NBA network. Take ownership over your health today and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Beyond that, I do want to, talk about, we kind of haven't talked about Trey at all. Trey is what Trey is. Trey is awesome. The playoffs were not good. Do you think that, like, where do you fall on I know you kind of mentioned it in passing, but where do you fall on the number 2 creator discussion? Because that's kind of out there too. And trying to thread that needle, and this is something I've always said, like, it's really hard to find a number 2 creator on offense that also isn't a bad defender. And that is what they have to try to do, because if they try to do it, if they try to go with a bad defender in that spot, whoever that might be, that makes life even more difficult defensively after you were already terrible defensively. So, like, I don't know, what's your thought process on, like, the common discussions about, like, improve the defense versus number 2 creator or both or whatever?
How old is Kevin Huerter?
Kevin Huerter, I believe, is 23, but I'm looking it up now just to make sure I'm right. He is 23.
Just let Kevin Huerter develop into the role. Like, I don't think there should be this big rush to get this second creator. Ideally, Kevin Huerter just comes into himself and really, because to me, I think Huerter has the talent to be that guy. But he actually needs the reps. I'd like for Kevin Huerter to have his usage rate go up a bit more. Have a coach to be like, hey, Kevin, you're starting, but we're going to sub you out first and have you run the second unit, instead of that going to Lou Williams this year. Maybe have Kevin Huerter develop into that role a bit more, or outside of that, I mean, they do need one, like, that's obvious, but I don't know if you're going to get the level of talent that you need at that position. You're going to have to draft that guy or trade for him. And the guys available are all Trae Young's height, and that just X's them out, in my opinion. It's just like that. It's like, I don't know. It's similar to for the Hawks. Like, hey, the Hawks should trade for Rudy Gobert. I'm like, sure. I don't know if that changes anything for this team, but, like, is Rudy Gobert better than Capella? Sure. Does that actually change the fundamental issues with this basketball team? No. If you trade for, like, let's say the Hawks do trade for Donovan Mitchell. I mean, it's exciting that it's brand names. Donovan Mitchell had a great season last year, but defensively, it's going to be an issue again. It's not like the Hawks had problems offensively all throughout the season. I know it showed up in the playoffs this year, but, like, to me, I felt like that had more to do with their primary mode of offense being shut down due to injury. Like, your 2 lob threats are both hurt. That's how you play basketball. Like, it just made the Hawks easy to guard, and, like, Trae Young just didn't have it against the Heat. I wouldn't be in a rush to throw all my chips into a Donovan Mitchell or a Bradley Beal type of basket. Now, we're throwing our chips in for Paul George or Kawhi Leonard or Jason Tatum or Brandon Ingram. Like, like I said, like, for that type of basketball player, yeah, sure, do it. They're never available. You have to draft that guy. So they're going to have to get lucky in the draft again. I mean, and ideally, that guy has the measurables that you can play him alongside Trae Young. That's one of the difficulties of Trae Young being the guy, is that he's 6'1", he's 168 pounds, and you have to surround him with guys who are bigger. But the issue is like guys who are bigger just aren't as skilled as the smaller guys. Like that's just how the NBA is. So I'm not a fan of like rushing to really make that decision yet. I would actually caution patience with that because like I think Herter has the talent to do it. I think Bogdanovich, if he can actually be healthy and not what he was during the season, maybe he can help a bit more in that department. But also, like, I really believe in Trae Young as the number one guy, like as the guy. Like it didn't work against the best switch defense in the NBA, but like that was just 5 games. Like I don't like he was to me he was the best point guard in the NBA this year, all NBA first team. Just based on what he did during this regular season. I'm not concerned about Trae Young or this offense. I'm more concerned with getting lineups out there that can do both, can play well on both ends. That's why I'm like, maybe they should actually trade for Ben Simmons, or maybe they should trade, maybe they should think about getting off of Capella and Collins, that 2-man group, even though it's been a great 2-man group for them. Maybe they should look to get since they have a combo, maybe they should look to get some more talent, just get some more talent on this team, young talent that fits the age range of where Trae Young is at currently in his career.
Yeah, I mean, that all makes sense. And, I really do understand the appeal of Hawks fans that want to trade for someone like Beal or Zach LaVine or Donovan Mitchell. I understand. Those guys are all star level players. And
I will say, just an aside, the Zach LaVine point, I think there was an opportunity to trade for Zach LaVine but they missed it. Like that.
Well, now it basically requires LaVine to not want to go back to Chicago, rule that out, and then also kind of choose Atlanta openly. Because anything with a sign and trade, that's sending with Beal, by the way. Like, you basically have to get those guys are not going to get traded to Atlanta without them wanting to be traded to Atlanta. Same with Donovan, probably too. Like, it's one of those situations where those guys are all going to pick their destinations for the most part. I'm not sure what those guys want, but it is just, I know I'm the defense guy, but I do have a hard time seeing a situation where a Trae Young, Donovan Mitchell backcourt is not terrible defensively. I just don't understand how that's going to work. Would it be exciting? Yeah, it would be. Offensively, they'd be incredible, to be honest with you. I'm not even the biggest Mitchell guy, I would say overall, but he's still a really good offensive player. So, like, it would really help them with Trae's off the floor. It would help them in the Miami series to have them another scoring option, but I wouldn't necessarily try to do that either. I do understand, though, subscribing to the like go get a star at any cost thing. I'm not necessarily all the way there, but you can't necessarily pick and choose who that star is. So if the Hawks if Travis Schlenk thought Donovan Mitchell was the top 20 guy in the league, you just got to go do it if you can. I'm not saying that I would do that, but if he evaluated him that way, I understand why they would want to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but that's my thing is like there's a big gap between top 20 and top 10.
I would agree.
It just is. And so it's like, sure, you're getting a top 20 guy, but like how much better is this top 20 guy better than the guys you're getting rid of?
And also for Donovan in particular, like, I think you got to trade. I mean, I don't know what it would cost, but I know it would be Collins. If it wasn't Collins, it would be everything else, I would guess. You have to trade for Donovan Mitchell. Like, you got to trade at least, probably Hunter and Herter and Jalen and multiple picks, I would guess, something like that. Or maybe 3 picks and 2 of those guys, however you want to say it. If it doesn't involve Collins, it's basically everything else. And like, I don't know, you can argue, but
I mean, it's like, that's not like, that sounds great on paper. Like, hey, those 3 guys aren't as good as Donovan Mitchell, but it's like, but I don't know. The NBA is moving kind of away from just getting stars into the room and like building your roster room there. Like, to me, the Hawks need another guy. They clearly do. Ideally, the Hawks got a second guy who can consistently get to the rim while also being able to play alongside Trae Young.
Get to the rim is a huge part of this, by the way, because I know we've talked about it before, but secondary creator versus get to the rim are different.
The
And that's
different
what
with two
the
different
Hawks don't have
things.
that.
Yeah.
The Hawks don't have even if you believe in Kevin Huerter or Bogey, those guys don't get to the rim.
Nope.
And DeAndre Hunter can do it a little bit, but he doesn't like to all the time. Like he likes to take mid-range pull-ups. Like they don't have a guy on the roster right now that regularly gets downhill other than Trey. Today's show is brought to you by Built Bar, and summer is coming. If you're anything like me, you'll actually need some food on the go in the next few months. Built Bar is the perfect snack to take with you on vacations, whether by yourself or with your family. Throw them in your own bags, toss them in your kids' backpacks. Make sure that everyone has a bar so you're fueled for your summer adventures. And the best part about Built Bar is that it's healthy and delicious. No more sacrificing deliciousness for health. With Built Bar, you can actually have both at the same time. It's also very easy. All you have to do is go to built.com and order right now. All Built Bars and Puffs have 100% real chocolate on the outside, which is great for taste and texture. If you haven't tried the Built Puffs yet, I don't know what you're waiting for at this point in time. They have great flavors like banana cream pie, which is actually a personal favorite of mine, and you actually picture just how well that tastes right now if you think about it. And if that's not enough flavor for you, the mixed boxes are an option as well. They have 12 different flavors of bars and puffs in one package. And Built Bar is also healthy for you, of course. Most bars only have 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein, which is awesome. And most candy bars have almost just a crazy amount of sugar, almost double the calories. Built Bars also taste fantastic while still being healthy. That's a huge key to Built Bar. And Built.com has all the favorites that you possibly want. Go there right now. They're all delicious, and flavors are always coming out all the time. Built.com also has a promo code for you. It's LOCKED15 and 15% off on your order if you use that promo code LOCKED15 at checkout. Use promo code LOCKED15, 15% off at Built.com.
That's why Ben Simmons,
I can't believe you're a Ben Simmons true believer at this point.
Well, here's the difference. During the season, it was going to cost John Collins, and then it would have
Collins and more. Yes,
it would have cost Collins and Bogey probably, and it's like, well,
now he has the back thing, and I'm not sure what his value is.
But it's like, I think my bigger thing was like, sure, Ben Simmons is great, but like Ben Simmons and Capella, that's untenable. But now you can trade Capella, so that's why I'm like, all right, I can understand the appeal.
So your idea is basically Capella and whatever else for Ben Simmons. Is that what you want to do?
Capella, Hunter for Ben Simmons, but like I don't know if the Nets would be interested in that.
I mean, they may not be because of like, but at the same time, I don't know about Ben Simmons' back. Is it like really bad? I don't know. Is he able to play? I don't know. Like he's a really not to go down this road. He's a very, very hard trade piece on all sides. Because like if you're the team, he hasn't played in a year. Like if you're trading for him, if you're trading him, you might look silly if he looks awesome again, but who knows? I don't know. It's like, this is why I don't really have great fake trade answers for anybody when they ask me. It's just like there's so many options that basically anything short of Trae Young being traded is on the table.
Jonathan Isaac down in Orlando, I don't know what his situation is.
He hasn't played in a long time.
He hasn't played a lot of basketball in the NBA at all. Like I recently looked at like his profile. Like I think he's played less than 200 games in his career.
That sounds right. He hasn't played in a game since before the bubble or in the bubble maybe.
Yeah, like and like he's been in the NBA for 5+ years now.
Yeah, he missed 2 full seasons in a row.
But like,
he played 34 years in the. He said one season where he actually played. His rookie year he played 27 games. His third year he played 34 games, and 0 the last 2 seasons. And he's also got some. He's also might be a little bit crazy. So there's that.
Yeah, he's got some opinions. He's got some opinions, and like that might genuinely be an issue in the locker room. He might be a locker room guy, not a bad locker room guy, but just like. It's just it's just like nobody really wants to be around this dude during this time. But like at the same time, they could use like if you want to upgrade defensively on.
He's a great defender.
Absolutely, absolutely. Be a massive boost to this team. Isaac, Collins, Okongwu. I mean, I don't know if Isaac Capella can actually work just due to again.
Just due to offense.
Yeah, due to offense. But like I feel like Isaac Collins and Okongwu, like that's a unit that could do some damage on both ends. I like that's just my point. Like I do think they have ways to improve this roster. But in general, they really need another guy who can get to the rim, like flat out, that can
Yeah,
play alongside Trae Young. And
I do agree. They
there's
have to
just
have
not
that.
that many guys. There's just not that many guys in this league, like who like. I mean, the Hawks could play Trae Young and Sharif Cooper together. I don't know if like
Yeah, I mean,
it'd
I
be
don't know.
terrible defensively,
Yeah, that's the
but
thing. Like a
they could
lot of
do
the
it.
guys they could probably get for a reasonable price are those. This is part of the problem is that the guys that you might be able to find that can do that are defensive questions, or at least at the very least defensive questions. There might be some guys who just that you can't play. Now, it could be a situation where you find a guy who can play with Trey sometimes, and yeah, they'll get killed on defense, but it will, you just kind of lean into it a little bit. But it's really tough. I mean, I was going to ask you before we get out of here, like what your priorities would be. I think we talked about a lot of stuff, but like, heading into the offseason, nothing's really happened yet. There's still the lotteries next week, etc. Like if you're Travis, we don't have the info on the inside that he does, but like, what is your number one? We're trying to do this short of just getting better, which they've been very open about trying to get upgrades, which I actually appreciate. I think Hawks fans should appreciate how open they have been about like, look, this isn't good enough. We're gonna be better. That's actually kind of encouraging, I think. But like, if it's you, what are you trying to do first? Like, what is your actual goal this offseason?
Obviously, the first thing is we have to avoid the tax, Brad.
Oh Lord,
we cannot expect our billionaires to pay taxes in this country.
I gave as you know, I'm very skeptical that he'll pay the tax. I think he did say the right things for the most part on that Zoom call. He did caveat them every time, which I thought was notable. But I think they could go into the tax. I would guess they probably don't. But a lot of it comes down to like what do you do with Gallo? Because if they want to keep that Gallo salary slot, they're already at the tax basically. I think Trey's going to make All NBA after doing a minor straw poll. I think if I had to guess, he's going to make 13, which will give them $6 more million on the books per season. That's not a small amount of money in terms of like your actual calculus. Good for Trey though, obviously.
Yeah, if they cut Gallinari, and just just to save money on the salary, on the tax, I'm going to be super annoyed because Gallinari isn't.
I would try to trade Gallo personally.
I mean, me too.
I think I wouldn't just want to keep Gallo just to keep Gallo. Like I think he can help you in certain ways, but I do think that to your point, if I am a Hawks fan and I don't think about it this way anymore, but you're a Hawks fan. If I'm a fan and they just cut Gallo to save that money, I would be furious.
I mean, because like again, he's not a perfect player, and like,
but he's valuable. He's still a valuable player.
He's still like quality rotation player for a good basketball team, and like could really like uplift an offense. Granted, he's kind of morphed into Carmelo Anthony. I don't know if you noticed that, but like late stage Carmelo Anthony, where it's a lot of post ups. It's a lot of post ups, Brad. And it's not the best analytically sound offense. Granted, he did at the end of the year remember that he has to, dunk the basketball if he wants any hope of making that $20 million. But like, I think for the Hawks' perspective, I don't think Gallo should be on this team. But at the same time, they shouldn't just cut him to save money. They should be looking to trade him.
He has a very interesting. It's an expiring deal. If you trade him at the draft, you can trade him to a team that is trying to shed salary, and they can cut him if they want to, or you can trade him a team that actually wants to just have him on the roster. And I think Gallo, to your point, is a pretty good player. But the worst case scenario is you just cut Gallo, because then you're paying $5 million on the cap that you can't remove from the cap, and you're getting nothing back. And now, yeah, you have Jalen Johnson, which is a sort of a ready-made backup power forward option. But as we discussed on this show, they're not going to just run the team back. So like you're not just done then. It'd be different if they were just like, all right, if they had made a conference finals again this year, and you want to just like, okay, let's run it back, and we'll just have Gallo give away to Jalen. If they had a great season this year, that'd be a lot easier to take. But we all know from Tony's comments, Travis's comments, to what we just said, they're not going to run it back anyway. So like, cutting money to do that, like I get the tax is like not the favorite thing to talk about for people, but like it matters. And I think that it would be really annoying for it's kind of like when they, this is kind of a deep cut because it's pretty on topic right now. I'm not sure if you saw this last night, Tyler, but Al Horford had quite a game on Monday.
He's had quite a playoff. He's had quite a season for the Boston Celtics.
But that was a reminder. It was a reminder that basically, and there's been some revisionist history on this, but I can tell you what happened because I was around the team covering it. If they had wanted to keep Al Horford and pay him, they would have done that, and he would have stayed. And they decided to penny pinch Al Horford. And now it's a little bit different now, obviously, different situation, but that kind of stuff will make you mad for a long time. And there are Hawks fans that are still mad about that because that was a good team and they broke it up for no reason, basically. Or at least not a reason that was good. Dwight Howard was not a reason that was good. So this is obviously a little bit different. Gallo's not Al Horford, but like if you just, for money reasons only, cut that guy, it's not a great tone to set. I'm sure Trey wouldn't be thrilled with that just because you're making your team worse for no reason other than Tony's pocket. And like that doesn't go over well with guys. No, the guys don't like that.
Listen, now I'll say this. If they want to just trade Capella for like a lottery pick, maybe to like the Trailblazers or the Kings.
Well, getting a lottery pick is different because that's like you're getting a lottery pick.
I'm just saying like,
yeah,
if that's on the table, like I feel like I'm fine with that, even if that makes the team worse for this year. I wouldn't have a problem with it just because they do need to upgrade talent. They just need more talent on this roster.
I'm kind of with you, by the way, and I think that's not likely going to happen. I think just judging, like knowing what I hear and also what's being said, they're not trying to take a step back. I think there's some urgency to win. I'm kind of with you that like that would be a move or a type of move that I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind them going a little bit higher upside and going for top 5 pick, something like that. Like if you could trade someone like Collins or Capella for like a real swing in the draft, that's defensible to me.
I don't think that's actually going to be available, but like I wouldn't hate it. Like even Collins for it. Like
your thought would be Portland.
I was seeing Andrew Kelly on.
Yeah,
for the guy from Purdue. I'm like,
hi, Andrew.
I mean, granted, that's the end of my Hawks tenure, but like objectively, I wouldn't hate it.
No, I mean,
it's a
swing. It's a swing.
It's just it's a rational decision, but it would make the team worse. Like that, there's just no question.
Well, and that's the thing about it is like you have to be willing if you want to do that, if you actually want to aim high, like on that kind of step back move, you got to have the buy-in internally because you're going to get worse. If you trade Collins or Capella for a future-facing asset, your team is worse. I know there's people that believe the team's like better without Collins, which is just absolutely insane. And Capella gets unnecessary criticism too. Like I know Okongwu was there. I know Okongwu is going to be awesome. I love Okongwu. I've always loved Okongwu. I wanted them to draft Okongwu. He's not as good as Capella right now. Plus, even if you thought he was as good as Capella, he's becomes your starter and you have to have a backup center. Like you got to have 48 minutes. So like if you trade one of those guys for a future facing pick, like you're going to get worse. You just are.
The only difference I'll say with that, Brad, is that you can have 48 minutes because you can play Collins at the 5 if you do the Capella thing.
You can't. No, I'm not saying. And that's the thing. Like,
it's not. You would still be taking a step back, but it's not the. Okay, we have this massive hole at the 4.
You're right. If it's Capella instead of Collins, you have more of a plan.
We have to find a power forward that is both good on defense, makes threes, and makes shots at the rim.
Well, and also if you did that, let's just say this is totally hypothetical. If you traded Collins for the pick and Josh Hart or whatever, you also could use the mid-level on a power forward. Yep. Like it wouldn't be a great player, but you can get a rotation guy for the mid-level. Whereas whatever you want to do. But yeah, I'm with you. It's still easier in terms of just overall team building to trade Capella than it would be to trade Collins.
I think that's just the larger point. But like I understand them. My ultimate point is like they want to find ways to upgrade the roster. That's probably the best way because I mean they really all this Collins and Capella talk. They really need to upgrade from what they're getting out of DeAndre Hunter. Like, just if they want to improve the roster, that's the simplest way. That's the easiest way. And there are multiple guys who don't make that much money.
Yeah, I would say just wing play overall. And obviously part of that is Hunter, but I would make it a little bit more general. And that's not to say that Herter and Bogey are bad, because they're not. They're good players. But like just general wing play. And yes, Hunter was the worst of them this year. I think if you polled nationally, people that don't watch the Hawks, that might sound like weird, but Hunter was very clearly the worst of those three players this year. Like not even close.
It's annoying. It's annoying. I just want to defend Herter a bit, because somebody's got to defend white people in this country. Like, if I defend Herter for 2 seconds, like he was incredible on those playing games.
He was good in the playing.
Put the clamps on LaMelo
and he also had a better year than people realize.
Like Herter is really good. Like, I get it. He's not star level. He's not flashy.
Well, and by the way, he's getting the same thing that happened to Collins.
It's tough.
Herter got paid. Herter got paid, and people thought, oh, we paid this guy. That means he has to take this huge jump, which is just not how it works. Same with Collins. As soon as Collins got money, there was a segment of the fan base that was like, oh, he's making this much money. It's like, he's still the same guy. He's still really good. Like, he's not going to suddenly get better because he's making more money. Like, and by the way, Herter had his best season of his career across the board. His numbers were the best they've ever been. Like, he had a good season. It's just that he didn't suddenly become a different guy in year 4. Like, he had his best 3-point shooting season. He has his best 2-point shooting season, etc. So, like, I don't know. Herter's really good. I'm with you. It's just that he's not going to be a star, and that's okay. Like, he was never going to be a star. It is what it is.
But I would love to see the Hawks actually push him the way that teams push their. It's just frustrating watching like the Heat and Tyler Hero, or even what the Grizzlies are getting from Desmond Bane, where it's like those guys are empowered, and I just don't feel like the Hawks have empowered Herter in a way that's productive for his development. Because like his development minutes went to Cam Reddish and DeAndre Hunter for some reason, and it's like, you know, I don't know. It's just I especially after what he did in the like, it just still annoys me after what he did in the playoffs that we start the season and he's getting DNP'd for Cam Reddish and DeAndre Hunter like that. I don't care that he was coming off like if he was healthy to play, but he's getting DNP or he's losing minutes to those guys like that. That just didn't make sense to me. Like, and that was really like it really frustrated me that like, if we want to circle back to like the beginning, like how they never got back to what worked last year. They didn't actually do that. Like,
no,
Herter and Bogey just stopped playing together anymore. Like, Nate just wouldn't do it. And like, if you're wondering why were the Hawks so inconsistent, why is this that? It's because you're playing bad basketball players. Like Lou Williams, DeAndre Hunter, Cam Reddish. They were really bad this year. And they played a healthy amount of minutes for a team that had bigger aspirations than getting bounced in the first round.
Yeah, we've litigated it to death, but it is worth remembering. It's been a while now. People kind of forgotten this. The Hawks, when Cam Reddish was not on the floor this year, had a plus 5.7 net rating for the season.
They were 28-20 without him. And if you go back for 2 seasons now, they've been like a 40. They've been like, what, 48 plus win team when Cam Reddish doesn't play, and it's like,
again, they were, and by the way, they were also. This is the craziest stat of all. They were above average on defense when he didn't play.
If you watch Cam Reddish play, that was not shocking.
You and I, we agree on the fact that Cam became a very overrated defender during his time, but like, it is pretty crazy. Like, they were legitimately good on both ends of the floor whenever he was off the floor in the entire season. And that is wild.
That goes back to the organization coaching. It's just like, why was he on this team if he didn't? Why was he still on this team to start the season if he didn't want to be here? Why was he playing when he was ineffective? Like,
yeah, I
know for the fact the Hawks have multiple scout and analytic guys on their staff that tell them Cam Reddish is killing us. We have to stop playing him. He is not doing things. He's not playing team basketball.
Basically, everyone who watched them intently, inside, outside, scouts, etc. Everybody kind of knew that was what was happening, and it just, there's the calculus of trade value and internal dynamics and all that stuff, and they ended up playing him until the very end, and they traded him and all that stuff. But undeniably, they were much better when he was traded, both after that and also when he was not on the floor before that. So we've gone long. You're a busy man. We got to get out of here. But anything else you want to plug or say, feel free to do so. I know you got all kinds of interests. I will fill you in on the NBA playoffs at some point, because I know you're unsubscribed at this point from playoff basketball.
Oh yeah, I'm a hater.
Certified hater.
Certified hater. I can't stand all this Grizzlies love. Like, it's annoying.
Well, you are a Grizzlies. You are a Grizzlies guy deep down.
Me and Miles Brown are like, everything negative he says about the Grizzlies, that he's using my voice. Just, I need people to know this. He's using my voice.
If people don't know this, Tyler has spent a lot of time in and outside of Memphis, so he knows the Grizzlies what's going on very well.
I mean, I love the grit and grind Grizzlies, though. This is not grit and grind Grizzlies. I understand people don't watch basketball teams until the playoffs, but like, they're different. This is a different DNA type of teams, but they're good. But I'm a hater, so I'm not going to give them no props.
Only props for Al Horford, who Hawks fans don't like anymore. But I'm really enjoying Al Horford. I will be honest with that. I'm really enjoying watching Al Horford play basketball. I still love Al Horford. I'm sorry to all Hawks fans that were mad at him and his dad, but I still like Al Horford. Apologies.
Yeah, I mean,
he's playing great though, man. It is wild. Al was playing out of his mind in this series. Crazy stuff.
Well, it's payback. It's this blood feud with Budenholzer.
I made the joke about it last night. I said I was obviously kind of kidding, but I was like, I think I heard Al screaming at Bud about how he didn't pay him on the way out the door in Atlanta, which, blood feud's probably a good way to put that. I'm not sure if it's all Bud, because there was certainly some ownership stuff in there as well. But as well documented, Bud was the president of basketball operations at the time.
So yeah, shout out to Al Horford, but we can't root for the Celtics on this podcast.
No, I'm not rooting for the Celtics. Don't get me wrong. I don't really. If Bob Rathman hears this, he will be furious with me about talking about nice things about the Celtics. But yeah, no, I can still enjoy Al Horford and also kind of root for the Bucks at the same time.
I really don't want the Heat to win, because I don't want it. It has nothing to do with the play. I love the way they play, and I actually love the intensity and the and how they play. I just hate the term heat culture, and so I just hope they lose, because I really hate it. Like, it disgusts me on a personal level.
All right, well, there you go.
But like I said, like, Jimmy Butler's been incredible, absolutely dominant against the Hawks, and it's good to see. It's good to see he continue his form against the Sixers, who should have paid him, and just not thought twice about it. But so that's my playoff preview, but I'm not watching any of it because I've been too busy reading the Cosmere, Brad. So I finished the Stormlight Archives. Well, I don't know when the next book's coming out. I didn't, it's not over, but I finished that series. Then I've read all of the Mistborn, Wax and Wayne. Now I think there's like 4 more books to go in the Cosmere from Brandon Sorensen. So
sure,
I'll let you guys know how that's going. All of them are fun. I don't know. I'm enjoying just it's very shockingly old school kind of 90s cartoonish, with a healthy slice of emo as well in there. But you need that edge to keep you going. But I've been enjoying it. It's a fun high fantasy series that I've basically given my life to since I haven't watched anything on television in like weeks. So that's what I'm doing. But you can follow my takes on Jonesy2x4 on Twitter. I actually don't know how long that's going to be because a certain somebody bought Twitter recently and we're going to have to be paying $3 a tweet or something. So, I don't know when I'll be on Twitter, but that's where you can follow me, and I'll update you guys how I'm feeling about certain stuff, and maybe I'll have a basketball take every once in a while, but that's about it.
Well, there you go. Thank you, sir, for joining me. I will leave you with one more thing that I just saw on Twitter from John Schumann of NBA.com, who tweeted out the biggest on-off differentials in the playoffs. And number one in the entire NBA is one DeLon Wright. So that's all I got.
Just Nate knows he could have just started him, right? Like it's just
shouts to DeLon Wright. Anyway, thank you, Tyler, for all the time. 2-part episode, all that fun stuff. Please follow Tyler if you'd like to get the takes off. He enjoys all kinds of things, and I learn things from Tyler. As for everybody else, please subscribe to this podcast on whatever platform that you enjoy, whether it be YouTube on the visual side or Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc. Follow me if you'd like to at BT Rowland. Follow the show at Locked On Hawks, and we'll see you next time.